Okay, it's getting close supper time and I just had lunch. That's the nice thing about not having to keep a schedule. Had me a good long nap. First, I want to tell you, been a lot of comment come in about Jan's lip condition, and she's seeing doctors. She's been to the emergency room. She's been to her doctor, and they're working on it, and hopefully it's going to take a while, I'm sure, to get the situation straightened out, but we're hopeful. We think the right medication is going to do it, and right now she's taking prednisone, and she's using the Vaseline, she's using cortisone. Well, it's just going to take time. She's watching it close and being very careful. And she's reading all of your suggestions, all of your comments, and she's taking them to heart. She's not just passing them off as, So, anyway, I want you to know that she appreciates your input, because somewhere along the line, there's going to be somebody that has the right answer. Maybe several of you that have the right answer. So she wants to thank you for that, and she can do that on her own. Now, I got my perm yesterday, and it's just so nice to be able to pick up the comb, brush it through my hair, and walk out the door. I just love being able to do that, and I'm perfectly satisfied with my perm. I don't do a lot of hussy fussing with my hair. If it looks suitable, I take it. Yeah, they're doing a better job than I am, so I got nothing to complain about. Now, some of you have wanted to see some old pictures of me. I never thought I took good pictures, and I didn't take good pictures because I wasn't pretty. You gotta be pretty to take good pictures. So I'm gonna show you one. You'll like this one, it's cute. Can you see that? Now, isn't that a cute little stringy-haired girl? 2nd grade of school, Clinton, Tennessee. My hair looks a mess. It always did look a mess. But I can guarantee you see that old-fashioned fabric? That's crepe. And I know without a doubt my mother made that dress for me, and most likely she made it from one of her dresses because it's made out of crepe. So now you see that picture of cute little Pat. I think I'm cute. I didn't used to, but I do now. Let me show you another one. Bring you up to date a little bit. Get this thing going right. Let's see. You can hang on there till I get the right picture. Let's get down the screen a little bit. Here we go. Oh, come on. I'm going to turn it this way. Oh, I'm cute here. Can you see me? Hair's still stringy. But I was about 16 years old when this picture was taken. I think I was a sophomore in high school. And the more I look at it, the better I like it. And take a look at the frame. You can see that frame. Well, I don't know. That glare from the wind that you're getting in the middle of the picture. See if I can turn it some way it doesn't show up so much. Well, maybe that helps a little bit. But you can see that old picture frame. This frame probably dates back to the 1940s, and I love them. Just love these frames. Now, I don't know that there's any other pictures you need to see. You know what I look like now. Let's see. I'm going to just breeze through here. Here's one not too long ago. A recent picture. Look at the buck teeth there. Now I'm going to show you this one. This was a Christmas picture. Whoops. Back up a little. Got ahead of myself. Hit the wrong button. Oh, where did it go? I don't know what happened to it. But let's see if I can find another one. Oh, you're going to love this one. There's my strawberry daiquiri. Oh, I don't know when that was. It had to be some kind of celebration, because that's my celebration outfit that I wear. I only wear it to weddings and funerals and special occasions. And it fits good, it feels good, and nobody can tell what era I'm coming from. But I'm drinking my strawberry daiquiri, and I'm having a good time wherever I am. So I think that's enough photography of me. Let's get on with my story. Now, this is not really a story. It's an experience. And I was sitting here yesterday thinking, you know how you just think back, my hearing aid is... If you hear it, holler at me. Tell me to fix it. I don't think I'm going to get it fixed, though. Anyway, we'll get on with my story. This was back in the 1980s, and I was sitting here yesterday thinking about that. Actually, I was kind of thinking about working up a trip for Jan and me and our friends. I'm going to do as much travel as I can while Jan's willing to be the driver. She's going to be my Uber. And yeah, it's going to cost me too. Yeah, one way or another, it's going to cost me. So anyway, what I want to tell you about, the first time I ever stayed in a B&B, bed and breakfast. They weren't new, but fairly new during those days, back in the 80s. My friend Peggy and I decided we wanted to take a week's vacation. We wanted to go somewhere, and we wanted to stay in a B&B. Okay. Where do we go? Which direction? Where do we start? I had a Victoria magazine. Now, some of you will be familiar with it. And when it first came out, I just thought it was the most wonderful decorator magazine there was. I'd been looking at a Christmas issue. And in that issue, they featured a man in Michigan with his B&B. Several pages. Oh my, it was just entrancing to me to see what he had done with this 3-story old brick house in Union City, Michigan. Place I'd never heard of, southern Michigan. So I told my friend, I said, I'd like to go there. And there's another place I'd like to go. Let's see, which one was that? Oh, near Ann Arbor. And I think the town was called Saline, Michigan. There was another bed and breakfast there. I learned about it from a lady in Tennessee. She was a dealer in antiques, and when she needed to stock up on some more antiques, she sold from her own home, and she would go to Ann Arbor, Michigan. They had a once a month big sale on antiques in a huge field, booths everywhere. And she stayed at what was called the Homestead Inn, I think. Yeah, in Saline, Michigan, which is right outside of Ann Arbor. So she had told me about the inn, and I told my friend, I said, we go to Michigan. Her sister was living in Detroit. We could fly to Detroit, spend the night at her sister's house, get up the next morning, and off we went with her sister, using her sister's car. Now, let's see, we got to the Homestead Inn. That was the first one we went to. But first we went to the big antique sale. And of course, you know you're not going to bring much back with you if you're getting on a plane, having to carry it with you. They're not going to let you on the plane carrying a pole lamp. So I found something I wanted. Oh, I had to have it. It was a rag rug. Now, you people know what rag rugs are. You know how they were made on those great big looms. This rug was about 3.5 feet wide and 13.5 feet long. Oh my gosh, in very good condition. You could put it all the way down a hallway, or you could even cut it in 3 strips, sew it together on the sides, and have a room-size rug. Yes, I had plans for that rug, and I was going to buy it, and I did buy it. But how was I going to get it back from Michigan to Tennessee? You'll hear about that later. Okay, we start out in the first place we stopped where we had reservation, the Homestead Inn. It was out in the country, and I mean out in the country. Lots of farmland, creeks, and woods. And before we got there, I called the owner, and I said, we're almost there. And she said, well, I'm at work today. You just go around to the back of the house, and the back door is open. Just go in through the kitchen, make yourself at home, and I'll be home shortly. And we did just that. Went in that back door. Kitchen looked like most any other country kitchen. I call it a country kitchen because it was an old kitchen and still had all of those features. Of course, it was something I love, is an old country kitchen. We went through the dining room, huge dining room table sitting in the middle of the floor. Everything old, 100 years old, had to be. And we go through just examining every little trinket and the curtains and the rugs and whatever there was to see. Very nice place. The 2 sisters, they roomed together in one room. I had my own bedroom, and we shared a shower bath. The next morning we got up. We went down for breakfast, and seated at this huge dining table was a couple, husband and wife. We didn't know anybody else was in the inn at the time. They were very pleasant people. I don't remember where they were from, but he was limping because he had had an accident and broken his leg, and he had a lot of trouble with that. And he was telling us that his wife was his nurse, and that she had taken such good care of him that he wanted to repay her. So he said, we're going to travel, and we're going to go cross country, and we're going to stay in bed and breakfast inns. And this was his treat to her for having been such a good nurse to him. And I thought, whew, that's the kind of man I'm looking for. Wondered if he had a brother. Yeah. Okay. We enjoyed that. It was a nice place, my first bed and breakfast inn. So we go from there. Let me see where we went next. we ended up in Holland, Michigan. Holland, Michigan is where they have the tulips. Oh, and it was tulip season. I couldn't believe there were tulips with stems 2 feet long in the grass between the sidewalk and the street. You know, that little area, and tulips all the way down the streets. It just amazed me how beautiful they were, great big tulips, and that they were in the main part of town. Well, we went from there to a factory, and that factory produced Delftware. You know what that is. It's blue and white, ironstone sort of. Oh, you had the little Dutch boy and the little Dutch girl and the Dutch shoes and all of those ornamental things that people love to collect. It just so happened the Delftware was a little bit expensive, so I had to hold back. I only bought one little Dutch girl, about that big. But that was my souvenir. And let's see, that's where we just went up. We look at our list. We had a list of bed and breakfast, and so we were going to check them out. So we came to the one called the Parsonage. It was on a corner lot. It kind of was up a rise. Beautiful white house, lots of windows across the front. I think it was like a sun porch in front. It had everything that I would want in a house. We went upstairs where the bathroom was. The bathroom must have been 15 by 15. Can you imagine a bathroom that big with the big clawfoot tub right in the middle of the floor and the black and white square tiles on the floor? And, of course, the pedestal sink. Oh, I was in heaven. My room was over the sunroom, and it had those little square windows all the way across. And when I laid in bed, I could look straight out those windows and see everything that was going on in the streets. Beautiful handmade quilts on the bed. The next morning we went down for breakfast. Beautiful dining room with laced paneled curtains on the big windows. It had those heaters, what do you call them? Heaters under the windows. And they had a cover to them. You could, in the summertime, you could line up your flower pots on there, and you could see them through the windows. Very pretty. Now, she did not do the cooking. She did not have the kind of B&B where they allowed you to do your own cooking. So she had to go out to a bakery, and she bought our breakfast for us. She came in with the donuts and the muffins, big, beautiful muffins. And, of course, we had the regular eggs and bacon and biscuits. Couldn't have asked for a better breakfast. And it was so pretty and so pleasant, and the glasses were crystal. I didn't even own a piece of crystal. But even that made your food taste better. We loved that parsonage. And I said, this is the house I want right here. Okay, one night there, we wandered on down to Union City, Michigan. I'd never heard of the place before until I saw it in Victoria magazine. Oh my, did it look inviting. We pulled up, and it was kind of out in the country. Big garden outside, lots of flowers bordering the sidewalk, stone fence, wrought iron fence, everything you could dream of having in a country home. And the owner was the man that I had seen in the magazine. He had an autistic son, just about 6 or 8 years old. And it was very obvious that this child was taking up 90% of his time. But he was patient and kind, and I was amazed at how he could handle this child. So we went through the inn, old Victorian furniture. The beds had those headboards that went almost to the ceiling, and you know, in those houses, the ceilings were 13 feet high. You don't realize how high 13 feet is until you're standing in the room and looking up at the ceiling and saying, I just barely can't see the overhead chandelier hanging down from the ceiling. It's so far up. Kind of how I felt about it. Lots of beautiful wool rugs, oriental rugs. I went through that dining room that had been featured in the magazine. It had candle holders. Now, watch how I hold my hand. My hand is not like the hand that was in that glass, but it was the hand turned, and the candle was down in the hand, and it was in pink glass. I don't know what kind of glass, depression glass. And I thought, oh, those are the prettiest things I've ever seen. And a beautiful buffet, several chairs around the table. The dining room was long and narrow, and for me, it was a little overcrowded. There wasn't much walking room. So he asked us where we would like to have our breakfast served, in the kitchen, or did we want to eat in the dining room. We said, we'll take the kitchen, because the kitchen he was referring to was not a work kitchen. It was one that he had set up as, well, as you would say, let's eat in the kitchen for breakfast. There was the big black cook stove with a pipe that goes out the wall and up through the ceiling. And on the cook stove, he set all of the dishes. He had jellies and jam that he had made. He obviously a very good cook. So we had the usual scrambled eggs and pancakes, whatever we chose. And all of this was on the stove. He left the room. There was the coffee pot, the orange juice, the breakfast, and apple tarts. Well, the apple tarts, of course, came last. He had made those too. So it was a small wooden table, a little drop-leaf table with 4 chairs, and that's where we had our breakfast, private. We got to that apple tart, and I'm going to tell you this, it's in my cookbook. I put it in the cookbook. I haven't made it yet because I haven't had the nerve to try it because I'm afraid I'll fail, but I think I'm going to work up enough nerve to try making those apple tarts. They were delicious. Oh, and I said, will you give out the recipe? And he did. He gave me the recipe. Well, we had arranged to stay at that bed and breakfast 2 nights. But what we discovered was there was nothing to do. He was out in the country where there were no other houses or shops or anything. We had to drive in 5 or 10 miles to the nearest shopping area or to the nearest restaurant because he didn't serve 3 meals a day. We had to go to dinner in the village, wherever the village was. I never saw it. But we said, what are we going to do all day? Sit around at night. None of us were avid readers. So we canceled our second night at the Union City. What was the name of that? Oh, it was called the Victorian Villa. And it was truly Victorian. It was truly worth seeing and eating at least one meal because the man was a cook. So we left there. We didn't know where we were going. We just drove. And when we got middle of the afternoon where we needed to find a place, we still had our list of B&Bs. So, okay. We're getting up the latter part of the week. We're in National City, Michigan, or Indiana. I don't know which it was. But we got reservations for the night at National City Inn. Now, this was a brick house, 2 stories, beautiful place. It was right on the edge of town. Main Street ended, and it was what they call roundabout. You know what a roundabout is, how you go around to get out over on the other side. And we had a room facing the front of the building, and you could look out and see the neighborhood. You could see all the traffic coming from downtown, and right in front of the inn was a huge fountain. It had lights at night, and the lights would change color, and the traffic would be driving around that fountain. It was, when I say huge, I mean tall and big, right in front of my bedroom window. It was just gorgeous. So, we had breakfast the next morning in a large room where there were individual tables and chairs. They brought theirs in too from restaurants and bakeries. So they had everything set up. You could have toast and jelly and muffins and that sort of thing. It was continental breakfast, you might say, but everything was delicious. The inn also had, it sold antique. Well, I don't know that they were antiques. I think they were mostly handmade items, that souvenir things you love to take home. And, of course, they had their cookbooks. Everybody stays in a place like that has to buy a cookbook. But what I loved best about the National Inn was right in the center was a stairway, big open stairway with a balcony. And when you went up on that balcony, it was a huge room that just took up half of the upstairs. It had shelves on both sides of the room filled with books, any kind of books you wanted to read. And the guest would go up there and just relax, and you got to meet people. And it was so pleasant. I really liked that part of the National City Inn. We decided to go for a walk, and outside the door was this beautiful neighborhood, old Victorian homes. Oh my. So we went street by street by street. admiring these historic homes. Each was so different from the others. Some had wrought iron fences in the front yard. You had the big 2-story white house with the banistered railings and the gingerbread over the ceiling of the porch. You couldn't have asked for a prettier neighborhood. I just fell in love with it. So, we stopped at a bakery during the day. Oh gosh, it was a fantastic bakery. Of course, I couldn't pass up the brownies, of all things. And we each filled up our bags with bakery goods. That's one place that still has Main Street. You know how hard it is to find the Main Street nowadays? You can find a shopping center. You can find a mall. But what happened to the old-fashioned Main Street, where you had the dress shop, the men's shops, you had the hardware stores, you had the pharmacy. I saw a little wedding shop, couldn't help but go in and look at the wedding dresses. You know, why not? No harm in looking. And I went into a little bead shop. In those days, I was into beads, jewelry, that sort of thing, and I bought a handful of different kinds of beads to make jewelry. It was a nice little shop. I never expected to find that on Main Street in I think the town was called National City. I may have that wrong, but anyway, the bed and breakfast inn was called National City Inn. Now that was the last of our bed and breakfast inn, but there we stayed in four in 1 week. Now that's pretty good average, you might say, for a first time. And what a thrill it was to see how nice it was to travel and see places like this. I'm telling you, I didn't know I had traveled so little in my lifetime that by the time I was 57 years old, I didn't know there were 48 more states in the Union besides Tennessee and Kentucky. I was learning there were places I could travel that were different and so nice and so much fun. And I'm telling you this, while you're still able to travel, make that your #1 project. I'm saying it because I'm just an ordinary person raised in a small town. I don't know much. I don't read a lot because I'm a hands-on person. I've got to be making something, creating something. And if I'm reading, it's the instructions on how to put it together. I can't stick with a novel. I get restless and I come to a sentence that says something. I said, oh my gosh, I could make one of those. Close up the novel, put it back in the shelf, and I go looking through my tools and my craft stuff. I'm ready to make a new project. That's me. But I also learned I like to travel. It's so educational. It's educational in a fun manner. I call it fun because you're seeing things you've never seen before. You're meeting people that are different and you like them. Sometimes you meet people that become a lifetime friend. In fact, I went back to National City with a friend, and she was a fairly new friend. She said, we're going on vacation. I'm not telling you where. She was doing the driving. And I thought, where is she taking me? And she had heard me tell about the 2 days I was in National City Inn. And that girl had made reservations for us that week at the National City Inn. And I knew as we were coming through the town, I said, oh, I can't believe you've done this. We loved it. She loved it. And of course, I got a lot of pictures. And I want to put them on a video, and I'm hoping I can get all of those historic homes on a video so you can see just how beautiful the place is. And it would be a wonderful place for you to visit. And right outside, just a few miles up the road, is a little place called Turkeyville. What would you find in Turkeyville? Turkeys. Lots of turkeys. And restaurants that everything you ate was made out of turkey. Well, it was nice, but I can still say I preferred Mama's turkey and dressing and Mama's gravies and biscuits. You know, that's just natural. But that was my second trip to National City Inn, and it was worth it. I don't know any other places to speak of as an inn except my first time to stay in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, I have to admit, Charleston, of the few places I've been, Charleston is my favorite city. It's old, it's beautiful, there's so much history, the restaurants are wonderful, and the hotels are fantastic. And my friend and I stayed at the Vendue Inn. Vendue, V-E-N-D-U-E. There were two of them. There are two of them across the street from each other. One is the old one, the other is the new one. And it's a half a block from the Pineapple Fountain. I think that's what it's called. Pineapple Fountain, right on the docks. You can see it from the Vendue Inn. Well, every room is different. They have those tall poster beds. They have those with the canopies. One or two of them have fireplaces. Those are usually for the newly married that are staying in the wedding room, whatever. And it's pretty. Every room is so individual, and it doesn't matter which room you're in. You go downstairs, it's more than a continental breakfast. You've got the biscuit, gravy, sausage, ham, and your fruits, all of your fruits. And everybody sits around at little tables, and everybody is so friendly. They talk to you like they've always known you. The staff talks to you like they've always known you. And they treat you so special. If you're going to Charleston, South Carolina, and you're going to stay in town, make your reservations at the Vendue Inn, because I don't know about the others. I'm sure they're just as nice, if not nicer. but this is the one I stayed in twice. And I highly recommend it. And up on the roof, they had their dining up on the roof. Even in the wintertime, they had those screens. And I don't know what they call those lanterns. They're actually on big poles, and they've got fire in them. And that's how you stay warm in the wintertime when it's 35 degrees and maybe a little bit of snow. We were there at Christmas time. And gosh, was that a good trip. It was so cold. But I'll have to tell you this. I had done a Christmas decoration for an attorney's office. He was in one of the historic houses here in Lexington. And my daughter worked for him, and he hired me to decorate his office. I also decorated the porch, had the gingerbread trim across the top, big long windows, beautiful heavy door with lots of glass, and I did a long, huge Christmas decoration for the door. Now this is the part that's nice. He hired an artist to paint his entrance with the decoration on the door. And from that painting, he had his Christmas card printed. Christmas cards of the decoration that I placed on that door. That's kind of nice. Yeah. All the people that got a Christmas card from him that year got to see my artwork. And I was pretty pleased about that. So, anyway, that's about it for the Bed and Breakfast Inn. I'm recommending you try one or two. But first, try to get some recommendations, because you don't want to arrive thinking you're walking into the one with the beautiful Victorian bed, the gorgeous handmade quilts, the lamps that you would almost steal to have one of them, and everything so clean and perfection. And of course you also had the clawfoot tubs. But you had a shower too, in case you're like me. The time I got in the clawfoot tub and I couldn't get out. You don't want something like that to happen. You don't want to hear that story. No, it took me 30 minutes to get out of that clawfoot tub. It's so deep, I couldn't get myself pulled up. Okay, that's all you need to know about the clawfoot tub. But check out the Bed and Breakfast Inn. Tell yourself you're going to, if it's 50 miles away. In fact, my friend and I, she's one I met on the Queen Elizabeth II ship the very first time I sailed. And her husband died later. We began doing our traveling together, and she was the reason I was able to travel to England and to Nova Scotia, Canada. Oh, gee, I had a wonderful time with her for about 10 or 12 years. It was great, and that's something you need to do. I didn't realize I was in Quebec. Oh, Quebec is just wonderful. It's a 2-level city. You have to take I think it's called a tram. From the lower level, you get on a tram and you ride up that mountain to the second level. It's wonderful. Go to Quebec sometime. You'll find out what I'm saying is true. Now, I think I've gone far enough, but this is my experience with travel. And I started in the mid-'80s, picked it up again, 1994, and it was from then until today that I've done my travels. Yes, there were more states in the Union than just Kentucky and Tennessee. And I've been to a few of them now. You have a good day. I'm doing well. I'm going to see what I can fix in the kitchen. I'm kind of run out of something special. Thought I might make a meatloaf. That's going to take too long. I want something I can pop in the microwave. We'll see what happens. You take care, and I love you all.